Tony D and Little Joan with a screenwriter's take on Cocaine Bear. Yes, I just saw Cocaine Bear. I'm going to review it for you. I'm going to talk about it. And you're going to see whether or not it lived up to my expectations. Did it? Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books, links in the description. Speaking of living up to your expectations, it's the Pineys, books 1 through 10, available at Amazon.com. Don't forget, Kindle Unlimited is free. Book 11 comes out in March. Now, as much as I wanted to love this movie, because I love the concept and I love the premise, I have to say the movie is aggressively mid at best, as the kids say, mid-level, meaning that the concept is so damn strong, it almost supersedes everything else. And there are some moments that are pretty hilarious and crazy and gross, right? But those moments are supposed to build up to the end of the movie so you have the craziest moment at all. And that just doesn't happen. Now, I'll get into where it all falls apart. Spoilers, it falls apart in the third act. The first two acts are okay. Well, I would say the first act is a little, it's like okay. You're like willing to forget if it's a little slow, but see, yeah, mostly okay, mostly all set up. Then it gets to the second act and it starts to take off, and you're like, all right, we're doing some crazy stuff here. And about halfway through, you start to go, what? Wait a minute, what? Okay, and I'm still on board. I saw some crazy stuff. I'm going to see more crazy stuff, right? Right, Elizabeth Banks, right? Okay. So, this is my non-spoiler review, right? The non-spoiler review is Ray Liotta is, as one would expect, being with Ray Liotta. He's in the beginning, and he's at the end. And I think he gets a phone call in the middle. Kerry Russell is okay. Don't really give her much to do. The issues with the movie all probably stem from Elizabeth Banks' direction and tone. Because where it really falls apart, where it really goes, what the F are you doing, Elizabeth, is in what is called as the denouement, right? So you have the first act, the second act, the third act, with the big climax, and then the denouement is like the conclusion, right? Like, oh, everybody goes on with their lives or whatever. That's where I was like in the theaters going, what? I'll say this too. It's Thursday night. The theaters were not full. People are not psyched for this movie. And once they hear these reviews, I wouldn't expect this to do too good. It'll probably do okay. It's possible that Elizabeth tried as best she can and simply can't escape her own nature. and I'm not trying to be misogynist. I'm sure that a female comedian, possibly with directorial chops, could have made this ending work. But Elizabeth, the focus and tone towards the end with some of the characters, I don't know what she was trying to do, man. The only thing that matters in a comedy is that it goes like right off the rails. It starts down here and it goes up, 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 and it never lets up. Never lets up until the funniest moment happens, and then you go, you have a tiny bit of a conclusion, a denouement, and then you're out. There's just a lot of weird focus going on, and I really think Elizabeth's greatest flaw in this is really her own sensibilities, being female. Because, and I'll get into it in the spoiler breakdown, because it's the only way I can explain it. I know you're saying, you're just a pig. No, I'm not. Because this is not the right way to direct this. If this movie came out in the 90s, 2000s, it would have been off the rails. It would have had comedians of every stripe in it. And people would have been getting killed left and right. And a few people do get killed. A bunch of people get killed, in fact. But There's no rhyme or reason to it, really, in terms of, like, in a normal movie, the people who die, like, you set up things to go, oh yeah, that's why this guy dies. Instead, we have these weird moments of drama that have no business being in here. So do I recommend the movie? I can't recommend the movie because it's such an off the wall crazy concept. It should have been an off the wall crazy movie, and it's kind of off the wall for a few moments. In the middle of the movie, it's pretty off the wall, I gotta say. But most of that's in the trailer, and it's just a few extra minutes outside that trailer, and beyond that, you're really not missing anything. I know, I hate to tell you, this is so a rental. If I had known it was like this, I would have went to the theaters. I mean, I paid money to see it. Got the senior citizen discount though. Thanks, clerk. Thanks, clerk, for assuming I'm old. Anyhow, all right, that concludes my non-spoiler review. My recommendation is, you want to. I made some effort to call friends and get a group to go, but it's Thursday. I knew that was a long shot. I'm glad they were busy, too busy to go out. Because if I got my crew and talked them in to go and see in this, man, I would have been embarrassed. I would have been like, man, sorry, that wasn't that good. Again, for about 50% of the movie, I was like, okay, we're going somewhere. All right. So now we're into spoilers. This is spoiler territory. Meep, spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. All right, so let's break it down. So the movie opens with the guy who's flying the plane who drops all the cocaine. Okay? Now, what's missing right out the gate is why he's dropping all the cocaine. Now, the implication is the plane's going down, but like there's nothing in that to suggest that. Like, they didn't have a scene of the guy going, crap, the plane, oh no, I'm getting the hell out of here. Instead, it's like an opening montage with music. He throws a bunch of bags out and then goes to parachute with a bag in tow, and then hits his head on the way out of the plane because he's got his sunglasses on and he's rocking to the music, I guess. Knocks himself out, and then he plummets to his death. Then they cut to an explanation of the incident. And you're reading it on the screen, and they're doing a news report thing, and they show you an actual news report from that era where they find the guy's body and they had cocaine on it, and they explain there's cocaine in the woods where they dropped it in, I think, North Carolina, because it's based on a true story. And they cite Wikipedia. Right there, I was like, oh no. Oh no. Now, look, I've used Wikipedia in my day, in my writing, but number one, I would never quote Wikipedia because I feel that it's very inaccurate. Anybody could go in there and change it. Number two, I don't just use Wikipedia as my source. I sometimes use Wikipedia and then use the Wikipedia source links and see if this is legit, or read further articles on it to confirm that it's a legit article, which I feel you have to do to a certain extent. And again, this isn't an incident that happened 1,000 years ago and there's no information. This happened in 85, and there's a fair bit of information. It wouldn't take that long to track down. But when they quote Wikipedia, I go, that's all the research you did? You read the Wikipedia article and then you wrote the movie? Now, you can do that. Don't get me wrong, you can do that because the movie's a work of fiction, obviously. You know, I'm sure most of the extraneous characters, none of them are real. Maybe the gangsters are real, but who knows? But still, when you quote Wikipedia in a movie, that already set an odd tone. Like, you didn't put much effort into this, did you? So they introduced the cop who's after the bad guys and his young partner. And then, for some reason, he gets into his car and he has a dog in a box, which apparently he just bought. He purchased a dog. He wanted a big dog, like a man's dog. Instead, he got a little sissy dog like mine with long hair. Like Joan could have that long hair if I wanted to comb it out, but I feel like I don't have that kind of time. And Joan likes her short hair, don't you, Joan? She runs kind of hot anyway. So like this is a sissy dog with very long hair and a bow. You would literally be combing out this dog all day long. It's only for the movies, obviously, because it's a kept dog that a trainer works with and combs it out every day, so it'd be funny. It's funny that the cop has a dog. Why? Is this a funny bit? I don't know. I don't know why they added that, because the moment I saw that dog, I'm like, oh no, the bear's going to eat that dog. Because that was my initial thing. They also show the bear early on eating some people, eating a hiker, right? That was before all the stuff I just said with the cops. Establishing the bear's already high on cocaine. So we don't get to see the scene where the bear's sort of traipsing through the woods and a big bag comes down and the bear starts sniffing and then starts sniffing at it and then its eyes go wide and it gets high. We're totally robbed of that scene. I don't know why Elizabeth would waste time telling us about a cute dog that one of the cops have and not give us the scene where the bear initially finds the cocaine so we could see it as a normal bear and what normal bears do, and then it finds the cocaine and then it becomes crazy. Like immediately from the outset, the hikers see the bear and it's already smashing its head against a tree, which also doesn't really make sense. Not sure why the bear's doing that. Kills one of the hikers. And again, like, there's no sense of the victimhood as an 80s movie normally has. Like, normally in an 80s movie, here's how you make people get killed in the movie. You establish that they're jerks, and that's why they die. So it would have been very easy to just add in a couple of lines where one of the characters says something that's crosses the line, like, why would you say something like that? I don't care. You know, kind of like bad karma. You know, someone who says something that like would give them bad karma, like, I hope that guy dies who cut us off. Oh, you shouldn't say stuff like that. That's rude. That's rude, and that's wrong to say that, because it kind of is. And then that person dies because they said that, right? That's kind of the rules of 80s movies. She doesn't do that. I feel. In fact, some of the people who die are kind of nice people who are trying to help. Yeah. If you're going to do this movie and you're going to make it over the top, what you want is a bunch of crazy people who sort of deserve to die to get horribly murdered. Doesn't happen. So then the setup is Kerry Russell's daughter wants to go to this park and paint a waterfall. The implication is they've already been to the waterfall once, perhaps, and that the daughter wants to paint it because she's a painter. The mother says, no, I got this hot guy I'm trying to date. She doesn't say that, but that's the implication. Again, detail that I'm not that interested in, but okay. So she's taking extra shifts as a nurse so she can get into the pants of one of the pediatricians. And the daughter is in tune with that. And there's a whole exchange about that. Like, no one cares. And we don't see that pediatrician, so I don't know what we see him in a flashback, but, like, he's not involved with the whole bear stuff. Like, I don't know why we need that detail. Unless the pediatrician shows up at the end of the movie to help save them or is horribly butchered by the bear, we absolutely did not need to see that exchange. But Elizabeth Banks wasted an entire flashback scene getting other actors to show a scene where Kerry Russell is fawning over this pediatrician in flashback. don't know why we absolutely did not need that. It doesn't really establish the mother-daughter relationship any better or worse. It we don't really know if the daughter is mad because the mother is dating and she apparently had another husband who's not in the picture. Kerry Russell calls him later in the movie, but we don't get to see him. And she interacts with him. She doesn't interact with the pediatrician except in a flashback. So why are we seeing the pediatrician and not the girl's father? In fact, why don't we see the father showing up, which could have been another potential victim, the jerk X, right? Oh, why did you drag me out here in the woods? This is your daughter. She's 13. She could take care of herself. Bear kills him. Yep. We don't get that. Okay. So Kerry Russell's deal is she has to go to the waterfall in the park to save her daughter, who played hooky from school with her friend Henry. And we also hear Henry's background, which is his father is bad. Again, I don't know why we're hearing this, but we hear this sob story about his dad. And the moment he starts telling that story, I'm like, oh, okay. So his dad, who's a jerk, is going to show up and the bear will kill him too. Nope. So again, why are we getting this information? How does this impact the bear? I don't know. It's supposed to be for this horrific third act climax, which I'll eventually get to. So then we cut to David, who's the second in command, I guess, of Ray Liotta, who's a drug kingpin. And they are having a problem because Ray Liotta's son-in-law married his daughter, had a kid with her, and unfortunately she died of cancer. And his son-in-law can't get over it. But they still are running a drug business. Ray Liotta's stuck with his grandson watching him, and his son-in-law is out drinking. So he orders David to go retrieve his cocaine and take his son-in-law with him. And in a normal movie, like if I was writing this, or if I was directing this, Ray Liotta would be an absolute a-hole. He is kind of an a-hole, but he's not like a guy who's on the hook for $14 million a-hole from the Colombians. No, he'd be much more ruthless. He would have said to David, who's also way too soft, whoever either wrote this or directed it, and I suspect it's the direction, the gangsters are not nearly as edgy as they should be. Way too cavalier about the situation as it's gone down. Because we find out in the third act that Ray Liotta is on the hook for millions and millions of dollars, and the Colombians don't care where their money comes from. They have to recover the coke. So what we needed early on was a scene where Ray Liotta basically tells David, if you don't find that coke, the Colombians are going to kill me, and I assure you, you'll be dead before that. Because that's the motivation he needs. And the motivation shouldn't be, and like Eddie quit the business. Nobody quits the business at this level, by the way. And there only seems to be 3 guys in their gang. Which, yeah, that's no good either. So there should be more gangsters. You can keep it at 3, but you gotta make it feel like there's more guys in the organization. When you're talking about a drug smuggling operation worth $14 million, there's more guys in it than 3. There is way more guys. So already the movie is on very shaky ground. However, as a comedy, you can forgive it, right? You could forgive it because you could just say, well, we're not seeing all the gangsters. I don't care. I just want to get to the bear. So I can overlook most of these flaws in the first act. So then we get to the actual bear in the park and what's going on. So it cuts to a forest ranger who has a visitor center that she runs. She's waiting for some guy who checks the animals to show up, who she's into, and she's got perfume on and she's putting on lipsticks and she's getting ready for him. She's dealing with this local punk. Now, it's clearly an actor who is an adult, but I guess he's trying to play like a teenager, but he looks way too old to be a teenager, and he's stealing candy from the ranger station, and the whole scene comes off as odd and weird. And it's later revealed that he's part of a 3-man gang who they slash people in the park. Now, here's where the tone starts to go really bonkers for me. You have this gang of people who slash people with a knife in the park. That's a pretty serious thing. Like, this isn't something like, well, that's the 80s. That happened all the time. No, it did not. Now, you could have had guys who were in the park and they littered. Like, if I were to write this, being a guy who lived in the 80s, I would have wrote it like, yeah, there's 3 guys, they hang out with the park, they rob people, and they smoke pot, and they drink beer, and they junk up the park. Maybe they deal a little weed. And yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem, and they're a bunch of a-holes. I don't think they would even go into the ranger station while she was there. They'd wait for her to leave, because she's by herself. And she leaves it all the time, and she has to lock up the place. And those places are in remote areas, and they're left unguarded. And while they're unguarded, what do? You break in and rob the place. So these guys aren't even smart enough to do that. So they come off as these 2-dimensional guys. At least the first one does. And eventually, the first guy who's in this gang, you only see the first one, he leaves. Carrie Russell shows up looking for her daughter, while the ranger's love interest shows up. She explains that she's looking for her daughter. Now, there's a previous scene where she calls the dad. She can't get the dad on the phone about her own daughter, even though she's missing. Seems to be a bit of an emergency. Kind of blows her off, but then Carrie Russell, while she's on the phone, figures out where they are and just says, screw it, I'll go find them myself. I can get past that. It's a little odd to me, but whatever. But she gets to the ranger station, goes with the ranger and this other guy. Now, the ranger, she wants to get with this wilderness guy, who's like this hippie guy who doesn't like the term animals. That was one of his lines. Kind of funny, right? I don't like that term, animals. Usually it's followed up by the term he does like to use. Like, I don't know, furry friends, or whatever he calls animals. But see, this is the problem with either the screenplay or the direction, or both. It's mostly, I blame Elizabeth Banks mostly, because the tone is the real problem here. But you would follow this up by a weird term that he does call animals. I call them my equals, the furry equals, or whatever. Something stupid and hippie. So Carrie Russell and these two go off to find her daughter. They don't seem particularly concerned about her daughter. The ranger is hot to get into this guy's pants. Again, weird tone, right? But you know this is directed by Elizabeth Banks, so is this a female perspective? Like, well, obviously the ranger's too horny to care about a missing child. It's weird. So they're out in the woods. At the same time, David goes to see Eddie, the son-in-law of Ray Liotta, and he's a mess. They say something in a bar that somehow tips off the cops of where the cocaine is in the woods. It's threadbare kind of moment, but I can kind of I can overlook it. It's a comedy. The cop eventually is coming to the park too. So anyhow, Carrie Russell and the other guy are off in the woods. They're looking for the daughter. They get to the spot where the kids encountered the bear. They encountered them, 10 minutes before this, earlier in the movie in the first act. We're just in the second act now, but towards the end of the first act, the kids encountered the bear and they ran, and you don't see what happens to them. Now, in another scene, or before that, the bear just obliterates a hiker, just kills her. But for some reason, the bear doesn't immediately kill the daughter. Again, another thing we can overlook, but you're stacking up the things I gotta overlook to enjoy this movie, Elizabeth, is all I'm saying. So Carrie, the ranger, and this wilderness expert get to the spot where the kids disappear, and her little friend, Henry, the guy who has the problems with his dad, is up a tree and hears them talking and says, "Oh, there's an effed up bear. He's trying to warn them." They don't believe him because, I don't know, the kid's all the way up in a tree. He says there's a bear. There's a bear. But the wilderness expert is like, "Oh, black bears don't do that." So the bear kind of attacks, kind of runs around, knocks them over. Kerry Russell hides behind the tree where Henry is. The wilderness expert and the ranger are like fighting the bear, kind of getting knocked around. The wilderness expert ends up crawling through the cocaine bags that the bear already opened up and ate. So again, we've missed the bear snorting this coke. I don't know why. But he goes up a tree covered in coke. The ranger ends up in a shootout with the bear. Might have hit him, probably not, because the bear seems fine. Gets mauled pretty badly in the buttock and limps away and says, "I'm going to go get help." The bear doesn't go after her for whatever reason. It's a bear. You could kind of say, well, it's just going to go after people at random. Then the bear goes up the tree to go after Henry until it smells the cocaine on the other guy. Then it goes down in a funny scene, goes down the tree and up his tree and just starts attacking him up in the tree. And while he's screaming, Carrie and Henry make their escape. And he's done. Like, you never see him the rest of the movie. The bear bites off his leg and sniffs the coke off his leg. And at that point, I'm like, all right, we got a movie here. So, Carrie and Henry are like, Carrie's like, "Where's my daughter?" And Henry's like, "I saw the bear take her that away." So they go look for the daughter. Like, how far away would the bear carry her? This is the one big hole in the plot. Again, if the movie's funny, I can overlook it. This is the motivation for Kerry Russell to go up the mountain. She's got to get her daughter. So I'm okay with it. So they start their search for the daughter. In the meantime, the ranger gets back to the ranger station. And she's all banged up. Oh, wait. No, there's a scene before that. So the gangsters get to the ranger station next. All right? Nobody's there. David goes in to take a piss. The other guy is like, I don't know, he's outside waiting for him. He's too upset. Everything upsets him. He's missed his wife. His wife died of cancer. So he goes into the bathroom, and again, nice action scene. The three guys in the gang who are slashing people decide to pick on the biggest guy in the park, clearly not a weakling, pretty big guy. They get into a fight with him in the bathroom, and David beats all three of them. He just puts the beat down on him. Then Eddie comes in and is like, "Where are you, man?" Oh, and in the process, they stab him in the back. Now, I don't know about you, but this gang is portrayed as, oh, they're just a gang. Just a local gang. But once you stab somebody, that's a big deal. Okay? And it's not clear what this gang wants. What do they want? Do they just roam around the park slashing and stabbing people? Like, they don't even ask him for his gold chain. He's wearing a gold chain. He's also a drug dealer. He doesn't have his gun with him. But okay, he doesn't consider these guys a threat anyway. So I didn't mind the fight. It was good action. Then you realize he got stabbed in the back. Like, the knife is sticking out of his back. That's pretty bad, right? That's like bad enough, like, shoot, man, let me go to the hospital and get stitched up bad before we go looking for this cocaine in the woods. Like, he could literally bleed to death just from being stabbed in the back. But they beat up these guys and they find a brick of cocaine on them. So lo and behold, these guys found one of the duffel bags full of cocaine. So they wake up one of the three and they say, "You're going to take us to the cocaine." And David is more mad about his jersey getting blood on it in a hole than he is about being stabbed by this guy. And this is a drug dealer, second in command of a multi-million-dollar drug operation. So I know what you're saying. You're saying, well, that guy's very dead. You'd think, huh? You'd think he'd be very dead, huh? So then the running gag becomes David, Eddie, and this local gang kid are walking to the cocaine, which is they hid in a gazebo out in the middle of the woods. And Eddie bonds with the gang kid because David can't connect with him on that level. And this could have been a funny bit if the gangsters had been real from the get-go. Like, the perfect guy to have played Eddie would have been Danny McBride, right? But Danny McBride would have been over the top. It might have been written for him. He kind of looked like Danny McBride in his hairstyle. He kind of had the mullet thing going and the curly hair. Like, you could see Danny McBride playing this character like he can't get over his wife's death from cancer, and then he gets mad at anybody who calls him a sissy for crying, and, and then he meets this other gang member, and they connect on an emotional level, and the gag should be that him and the gang member bond so well they become best friends. They get to the gazebo, and immediately David should shoot him, right? That's the way I would have wrote the scene. Like, I would have wrote this great emotional scene where Eddie comes to an emotional apex, and he's like, "You're right, man. I've been bottling up all this anger and taking it out on my kid. That's right. Now you can talk to your kid again and really bond as a father. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it." Bam! "What the hell did you do that for?" "I can't stand him anymore, man. He was an a-hole." "You're an a-hole. I really like that guy. We're making some real progress." Like, that's what it should have been. Because they're gangsters. And it's fine for the gangsters to murder people in a movie. It's what they do. But that doesn't happen. So what happens next, you might ask? Well, they're at the gazebo. But a few minutes before that, the cop found the gazebo and found the drugs. Just at random. He's just randomly walking around the woods looking for drugs, I guess. Gets tired because he's all by himself and he's kind of fat. Sits down on a picnic table underneath the gazebo, looks up, see the drugs sticking out of a thing in the top of the gazebo. Way to hide the drugs, guys. I'm sure nobody will find it way up here where we can see it. So then there's a scene of him trying to climb up, and he can't figure out how to get up there. But then later, when Eddie, David, and this gang member get there, he's already on the roof, and that's like a big shocker moment. The drugs are gone. David's about to kill the gang member, and then the cop is like, throw your gun down. So then this really awkward scene happens between the cop being unable to get off the roof without hurting himself and the three gangsters, David, having the gun. He gets him to put down the gun, tells them to back away, which they do at first. But eventually, David's like, "No, I'm going to pick up the gun, man." To which I say, why wouldn't you just shoot the guy? Why wouldn't you just start a shootout if you were going to do that? If you're going to drop the gun, you've already given up your advantage. So he decides to reach for the gun again. And the cop shoots his fingers off. 2 of his fingers. Which is supposed to be funny, but it's kind of not. It's kind of just like weird. Again, it's something you can kind of look past in the moment. But this is where it starts to kind of come apart a little bit. So now they're in this weird standoff. He gets the gun back after wrapping up his hand, David does. He's hiding under the gazebo. The cop's above him somewhere. They don't know where each other is. Eddie and the gang member are staying there. They're sort of in the sights of the cop. They don't want to fight him. But Eddie is arguing for just giving up, just giving this whole thing up. I don't want to die for this man. This isn't the son of a major drug dealer, whether he lost his wife or not. It just doesn't work. What it should be is he should be trying to work the cop. Listen, you know, how about we pay you some money? There's a lot of money to be made here. You could come with us. We don't have to kill you. We just need the coke, and that's it. Like, would have been all these opportunities. But instead, it's this weird moment where Eddie just starts, you know, it isn't worth it, man. What? Doesn't make any sense. Then the bear shows up. The bear's all messed up from coke. He's been on a coke bench. So David avoids it. Cops on the roof. Eddie and the gang member lay down. And then the bear walks over to Eddie and passes out on top of him. I know. And at first I thought, is that bear going to rape him? Maybe it'll be that crazy and outrageous. No, because Eddie reports that, oh no, this bear has a vagina. Now, his feet are sticking out from between the bear's legs. The bear laid on top of him. He's laying down like this. The bear laid down on top of him a similar way. How do you know it's a female bear? Asked one of the guys after Eddie reports that. He says, because its vagina is in my face. No, it's not. No, it is not. So I don't know where they get that line. I don't think that's a good line. It doesn't make any sense. The vagina of a bear isn't up here. It's way down between its legs, where his feet are sticking out. Yeah. So at that moment, I'm like, uh-oh, what is happening here? So then David calls a truce. He's going to try to push the bear, or see if the bear's still alive, and try to push the bear off of Eddie to save him. In that process, he got a brick of coke from the gang dealer that the gang dealer recovered. That falls out of his pocket. He doesn't know. The bear sniffs it, smells it, wakes up, rolls off of Eddie, grabs the brick, and eats the whole damn thing. Now, during this time, the cop's not shooting it. The gangster's not shooting it. And they're not running away. And there's a line from the cop, like David says, should I shoot it? Should I shoot it? And the cop says, no, let's see where this goes. Let's see where this goes? It should have been, run! Run, you idiots! Run! Don't worry about the coke! Run! To save these idiots, the cop eventually uses the coke to distract it, so it runs away. And then there's a confrontation between him and David. And like, again, David doesn't seem like a gangster because he doesn't seem like he's going to shoot this cop. He doesn't bribe him, just gets into this weird standoff, and then suddenly out of nowhere, blam. Yeah, Ray Liotta shoots him. See, Ray Liotta showed up a few minutes before and brought his hunting rifle and shot him at a great distance. So the cop goes down, the bag of coke falls off, and the bear gets the coke. Some point in the movie, back at the ranger station, we left two guys beaten up in the gang. The ranger gets back to the station and greets them. They've already called an ambulance. They've also already robbed everything in the ranger station, which somehow was left unlocked, although it's not quite clear it was totally left unlocked or they broke in or whatever. But I guess they broke in, or I guess she left it unlocked. She notices that everything's robbed. They foolishly left their knife on the counter, and she concludes rightly, oh, you're the gang that's been slashing people. You guys. That's terrible. I'm going to kill the guy who comes through the door. Now, the gang members think they're talking about David, but she's talking about the bear. So they hear something at the door. She says, open the door. So one of the gang members goes there to open the door, but he's so shocked to see the bear, he doesn't move out of the way, and the ranger fires and blows his brains out and kills him. And then the bear runs away. They don't know where the bear is. Meanwhile, the other gang member and her are trying to make a stand in the cabin. So then it cuts to Kerry Russell. She's finding the trail of her daughter. She brought all her paints, and she used the paints to leave a trail. So they're following her trail. So, okay, whatever. It eventually cuts back to the ranger station, and the ambulance guy shows up because the gang members called the ambulance for them. So the ambulance guy shows up, and this is from the trailer. He opens the door, and it's the driver and the medic, I guess. They open the door. They find the guy who's been shot in the head. He's been slumped against the door, holding it shut tight for some reason. You have lots of blood everywhere. They find the ranger, and she can barely speak. And she's going, bah, bah, bah. The other guy, and this is a scene for the trailer, goes into the back room, sees the bear. Quietly shuts the door. And finally, she picks up the stethoscope and goes, bear. Realizing there's a bear, the bear charges, knocks open the door, pins the one medic. The other guys escape into the ambulance. The medic tries to grab a knife. He ends up grabbing his bag, which is red like the duffel bags that had the cocaine, hits the bear, and then throws it. And the bear thinks, oh, there's more cocaine in there. Gets off the door, goes there. He scrambles out from under it, runs towards the ambulance. The driver takes off without him with the doors flopping open. Like, she takes the time to strap in the ranger into the stretcher seat, but she doesn't take the time to shut the doors, nor does she wait for her compadre. Because, spoilers, bears can't open car doors. So if she just went inside the van and locked all the doors and waited for her compadre to come out and then hop in a passenger side like normal, assuming the bear wasn't right behind him, would have been fine. But no, it's the scene where she takes off, guy's running, eventually dives in, but like she doesn't slow down and the bear is just coming. The bear is just chasing. So then it is a fun, crazy scene. So you got the ranger in the stretcher shooting at the bear while the guy's trying to shut the door, and then the bear makes the amazing leap to get in and just starts killing everybody. The ranger gets knocked out of the ambulance, face down on the stretcher, and then does a skid on the road, face down. Great scene. Again, not very logical, but you can forgive it because it's an over-the-top comedy. And the bear ends up killing everybody, right? Kills the guy in the ambulance. The driver drives into a tree. She dies. Everybody's dead at the ranger station now. Oh, and the other gang members are all dead. So now we're back in the woods. Kerry Russell's getting closer. The guys with the drugs, they escape the bear, but they recover some of the drugs. They leave the cop to die. He's just going to die on the roof. And the big revelation is his young sidekick is on the take. She shows up for no reason. I don't know why they worked this in. This is not what we needed. What we needed was Ray Liotta to do the logical thing. The logical thing would have been, okay, I only sent 2 guys to cover the woods. I need more guys. So I need like 3 or 4 more guys. And then the bear could have killed them all, right? But up until now, I'm thinking, all right, well, but the bear's going to kill everybody. He's been killing everybody in the movie so far. He killed the ranger. He killed the ambulance workers. Those were totally innocent people. Of course he's going to kill the gangsters. But no, these seem to be the heroes of the movie, everyone, as is Kerry Russell and her kids. So now this is where the movie just kind of goes off the rails. So Kerry Russell stumbles upon the other hiker, right? It was a couple. The bear killed the woman. They were both German. The German man was left in the woods to cry alone, I guess. He never got back to civilization to tell someone his wife, his fiancée, was horribly eaten by a bear. Just sitting in the woods crying. So they stumble upon him. He shows them where the bear cave is. Because he knows. Because reasons. I don't know why the bear didn't kill him. So he takes them to the bear cave. At the same time, the gangsters are coming. Ray Liotta keeps explaining to them that the Colombians are going to kill everybody, including Eddie's son, if they don't recover this coke. And the cop on the take goes with them. They leave the fat cop on the roof of the gazebo to die. And a kind of a sad scene that makes no sense. Because, again, there was no justification for killing this guy off. Like, again, in an 80s movie, he would have been on the take too, right? It would have been like, no, I'm taking this coke for me. Double cross. Nah, I'm going to kill you. And then it would have been like, his partner would have been like, I knew you were on the take. I knew you were going to double cross Sid. Oh, can't we talk about this? That kind of thing. Instead, he just dies, and it's kind of sad. So, Ray Liotta, David, Eddie, and the young cop go all the way to the cave to find the coke. They find some of it and the cubs. By this time, Kerry Russell's already found her daughter in the cave with an injured leg with the cubs. Afraid to leave the cave, I guess? For some reason, the bear left her alive with the cubs? I guess the thinking is, well, the bear found a playmate for the cubs, and that's why it left her alive. But the cubs are doing the coke too. Right. It starts to go off the rails. Again, if this had been a 90s movie, 2000s movie, 80s movie, I would have made it a male bear. A male bear that was coked up out of its mind. And kept going back for more and more coke. Hunting the woods for more and more coke. That to me makes sense. And then you could kill it off, right? You can't kill off the bear with cubs. We already know that. The moment you see the cubs, you're like, okay. Now we're going to be sympathetic towards the bear. Again, if they had ended it funny, I could have forgiven that. But because I really wanted to like this movie, obviously. You hear me struggling. You would have seen me in the theater going, So, I'm going to just change the visual here. Yeah, like this scene. This scene is not as funny as it was in the trailer. It was like the bear in between both these guys. This is after the bear ate a brick of cocaine. Seems to just hug Eddie, and I thought he was going to just tear his head off. Because he had done that in other scenes. But it just stops killing people. Until we get to the cave. So the big showdown is in the cave. Which leads to the magical waterfall that the girl wanted to go to paint. I don't know why. Why is the bears and her cubs living in a cave where the waterfall is? I don't know. Anyhow. So Kerry Russell and the kids move deeper in the cave to find the waterfall. They have nowhere to go. They get cornered by Ray Liotta, who found another bag of cocaine hanging in underneath the waterfall. And he has to threaten the cop because she threatens to leave, but he doesn't shoot her. David steps in and nobly says, no, you can't shoot her. Why? We don't know. There's no reason for David to save this cop. None. Zero. Now, you could have done something logically like, you can't kill a cop. That's too much heat. That would have made more sense. It also made more sense just to let her go because who the hell cares? At this point, you found some of the coke. She's already working for you. And quite frankly, she could have said, well, listen, I got to get back down the hill off the mountain and tell people to stay away from this place. I got to try to run interference for you, which is what she should have been doing. But there's no thought into this. It's just emotion. And the emotion is David is brave and noble. He saves the cop from evil Sid. I guess? Who cares? I want to see evil Sid get killed. I want to see all these guys get killed. They're corrupt gangsters that deal drugs. Let the bear rip their heads off. They're the perfect fodder for this. But no, Elizabeth Banks have kind of made these guys the heroes of the movie. Now, here comes the dumbest scene. The dumbest scene is Ray Liotta's trying to get this second bag of Coke that's hanging up there, and he can't get it, and Eddie tries to get it, and the bear cubs are in the way. They're there too for some reason. They don't just run away when they see humans. They're trying to attack Ray Liotta, I guess, because he smells like Coke and they're addicted to Coke too. Ha ha ha. And he keeps telling the other guys to shoot him. They won't shoot the cute little bear cubs because they're that noble, everybody. And they're drug dealers. They don't want to shoot anybody. Don't want to shoot bears. Don't want to shoot nothing. That noble. So he throws David the rifle he's carrying, and it completely misses David, and Kerry Russell catches it. She then announces that she is leaving with the kids. Then Cocaine Bear shows up just at the right time to save her cubs. Now, Kerry Russell at that point abandons the gun and says, "We have to jump, kids." Whereas before she said, "No, we can't jump." But now they're going to jump out in a waterfall and swim away, which they do. Leaving Ray Liotta, Eddie, and David to face down at the bear. David gets shot by Ray Liotta's character, who picks up the handgun, shoots him, and him and Eddie fall off into the waterfall while he's left to try to battle the bears himself. And of course the bears and the cubs rip out his entrails and eat him. But you're just wondering, like, what was the thinking going on behind Eddie and David? Like, yeah, Ray Liotta's a scumbag, but they're scumbags too. And there was a lot of money here. Yeah, they would have shot the bear, or at least attempted to. This wasn't the way it should have went down. But they want to leave the bear alive because God forbid you kill a CGI bear. There wasn't even a real bear in this movie. It's a CGI bear, obviously. But here's where it gets really weird. So David is dying because he's been shot for the second time after being stabbed and having his fingers blown off in a previous scene. Now he's been shot by Sid, and he has this heartfelt moment with Eddie, who can't save him. Kerry Russell, who's a nurse, swims over and saves him. Okay? So that's kind of in her wheelhouse, but at the same time, it's like, you have two kids. These guys are gangsters. They were with Ray Liotta, who clearly wanted to kill you. There's a cocaine bear up on the waterfall who is high on cocaine. By the way, Ray shoots the bear. It falls, and then one of the cocaine bricks explodes, like it falls and like breaks open, and then the coke goes into its nose, and that's how it revives it. But Ray did shoot it up. So you could see that happening like Scarface, but then the bear lives. The bear goes on to live. So finally at the end, we see a denouement. And this is where I'm like, holy F, what the hell are you doing? So Kerry Russell, Henry, and her daughter are walking out of the park. They don't know where the ranger is. They don't know where the wilderness guy is. They walked in with Kerry Russell. They have no idea where they are. As they're walking out, David and Eddie, and they are walking out. Kerry Russell had biked in. She's got her daughter on the bike. Eddie and David get in their truck, and they sort of acknowledge one another like, good job. Oh, and the cop's there. The young cop's there. The young cop who had to look after the little dog for the other cop gives the little dog to Eddie, who's now going to give it to his son because there was a discussion with the gang member about, well, you know, if you give me my mother, my single mom gave me a lizard and it really helped me out. So now he's going to give the dog to his son and they're going to bond. It's not a storyline we cared about, Elizabeth. Weird ending. And why is this cop there? Why isn't she arrested Kerry Russell and the kids to, I don't know, blame them for things or to keep them quiet or, as drug dealers will do, murder you. No, they're just going to let them all go. So, Kerry Russell and the kids, and this is where it's absolutely insane, walk past the ranger, right? Remember the ranger? The forest ranger fell out of the ambulance and face down on the stretcher and skidded until she was dead. She's dead on the road underneath the stretcher. They walk past her. They kind of see her. Kind of. Don't really acknowledge her. There's no cops. Like, there's not a bunch of cops taking people away or helping them. Like, that's what you would expect, right? At the end of this movie, like, oh, there's a bunch of cops and now it's all okay. Everybody's going to go home and go on the ambulance. No. They're just dead body. They're having a cheerful conversation. They're resolving all their little plot points. Oh, dead body of the ranger that Kerry Russell and Henry were talking to earlier, that tried to help them. Abandoned them, but tried to help them. Just leaving her dead body. She helped the gangsters, but leaves the ranger's dead body on the road. Just goes right past it. David and Eddie get in their truck, leave with the dog. Happy as clams. Now David's fine. He's lost a lot of blood. He was dying in a previous scene. Well, Kerry Russell is a miracle worker. Had no first aid kit with her. Don't matter. Bandaged him up. He's good to go. The young female cop, guess she goes on to become sheriff? I don't know. I don't know. The movie just ends. There's a bit of, a errata at the end on the screen saying that there's still a bunch of coke that hasn't been found. Oh, and then the final shot is the bear and her cubs very much alive. Even though Ray Liotta shot the bear, it fell off the cliff, landed on some rocks. It was only the cocaine that brought it back to life. But now it's fine. The cubs are fine. And then you see a couple shooting it, like an old video. And then the bears kind of do one of these and look at the couple like they're mad and then go after them. Why? I guess they did coke recently and the bear's smelling on them. I don't know why. So, yeah, really falls apart at the end, right? So the way this movie should have ended, and I'll fix it for you, Elizabeth, this is the way it should have ended. Should have been more gangsters, because you can kill them left and right. The whole gang thing made no sense. If you're going to do a gang of teenagers, first off, cast teenagers to play those guys. Don't cast like guys who are like, 26 to pretend to be kids, because they clearly didn't look like kids. And I'm not sure how the gang operates in a remote location near a ranger station and attacks hikers. Like, how does that work exactly? Seems to me they would be either very well versed in hanging out in the woods and be kind of woodsy guys, or that they wouldn't go all the way up into a ranger station to harass hikers in the woods. It just didn't really ring true. And they had this other weird scene where it cut back. The one gang member, he doesn't know his two friends are dead. They're dead at this point. And he talks about his two best friends in glowing terms. And then it cuts to a shot, this weird sort of bizarre flashback shot of him sitting in a junkyard with them. His two friends, one got his head ripped off by the bear, the other got shot in the head. They had those injuries, and they're saying, we're going to go to New York City one day. Not exactly sure what that's supposed to be exactly, because we don't know these guys. Do you see how the tone's like all over the place? It's like one character doesn't matter, the death doesn't matter, kind of, sort of, only certain people matter. For some reason, the gangsters matter? It doesn't make any sense. The gangsters are the guys you could kill with impunity. You could have lined up 100 gangsters and the bear could have killed them all. And I think the problem is, I'm just going to say it should have been a male bear. They made it a female bear with cubs, That's the moment you know, okay, the bear's going to live. They can't kill the bear with cubs. Then the cubs, they can't kill a bear, a mama bear with cubs. So it needed to be a male bear, an aggressive male bear. Males tend to be more aggressive. Should have been male. And the end of this movie is it kills all the gangsters. This is just high on cocaine. It keeps taking cocaine, keeps taking it and taking it and taking it until finally at the end, it's just Kerry Russell and the kids trying to get away from this thing. And she drives the kids into a police stop where there are like 100 cops and they just shoot the thing 1,000 times and it finally dies. Or it like keels over and they finally say, okay, it's dead, and they take the body away, and Kerry Russell and her daughter and the other kid get an ambulance, and it's like, well, it was crazy, but we finally caught the bear. What'll happen to the bear? Well, we're taking it over to the animal shelter where they'll do an autopsy. I'm sure, they'll remove all the cocaine from it and give it a proper burial. And then the ending of the movie should be they're moving the bear and like it's in a cage and like it wakes up, right? Or maybe they spill some cocaine in there, like putting all the evidence in the truck and a bunch of the cocaine spills on the bear's nose and it goes and the eyes open. That should be the end of the movie. Like it's still not dead. But it should go too far, right? It should kill nothing but bad guys, but then at the end it's going to kill Kerry and the kids. You have to kill it. That would have worked. This ending, to my mind, doesn't work. And it kills me that it didn't work. It kills me. Because this could have been great. It has some moments. I'll give it that. They did dedicate the movie. Here's where he sniffs the cocaine off the guy's leg. I mean, a lot of it's in the trailer, right? Here's this. And he's running after the ambulance. This is a great scene. Fun scene. This is the climax of the movie, but it happens midway through the movie. Once you've done this scene where he kills 3 people in an ambulance, he's got to kill like 10 people at the end. Like 40 people. That's why you needed about 24 gangsters in the woods. And the bear just kills them all. Just friggin' kills them. And then Kerry Russell and her daughter and the kid get away just barely. And then the cops are forced to shoot the bear down. See, it's a great scene here. It's a fun scene. Not sure why and this scene happens earlier in the movie. Here's Eddie. There's Ray. Here's the scene in a plane. It's a shame. It's a shame this movie didn't work. This is a rental at best. It could have been an insane movie that was just totally off the rails. And again, that final scene, like Scarface, right? The bear gets all coked up, kills all the gangsters, but it goes too far. It's a bear. It can't be stopped. Can't be reasoned with. The cops just shoot the hell out of it. But in the end, it's still alive. We just don't see it die. Obviously, it's going to die, right? Not that, it took a bunch of cocaine and it got away with its cubs, but now it still roams the wilderness looking for cocaine. Doesn't really make any sense. But this is Hollywood, right? They're not going to kill an animal, even a CGI one. They should. Bear killed a bunch of people, a bunch of innocent people. The ranger was innocent. Even by 1980s movie standards. She was a little annoying, but she was innocent. She didn't do anything negative, really, other than she was jealous of Kerry Russell. But, yeah, Elizabeth Banks. And there's this weird speech towards the end where Henry gives about his lack of a father figure. Like, it's some kind of weird analogy between that and, the fact that it's a female bear protecting her cubs. Like, yeah, I get that. That makes the bear meaner, obviously. But that the cubs also took the cocaine, yeah, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? It's like up in the ante the wrong way. I think you would have been better off sticking to one bear. And if Ray Liotta had shot the cubs, well, then it would have been horrible, but you would see why the bear would go nuts and try to kill him. Or he kicks the bears off the waterfall or whatever, and then they live. I mean, if you're going to make the bear live, and I get that, you could do the ending I said, or you could do something. Either way, you should have killed more gangsters. David and Eddie should be dead. They should not have survived this movie. The gangster, the kid in the gang should have been dead. The only survivors in this movie should be Kerry Russell and the kids. That's it. If you're going to kill the ranger and the ambulance workers, possibly the wilderness guy could have lived. Could have lived. Although the way it goes out, not really. The hiker, he could have lived. He dies too. You needed a few more characters in this movie to die. Terrible characters. The easiest thing would have been to just, after Ray Liotta says, you got to find this coke, it's too big of an area, we'll get some guys. And they should have had, at least 2 more other pairs of guys looking for this coke. And then you could have had a scene where one of the pairs finds the coke, and they're like, let's leave with this coke. Oh, Sid will kill us. Sid's dead anyway. Right? And they disappear. They try to disappear with the coke. The bear kills them. Gets the coke. Perfect scene for this movie. Doesn't happen. Again, we're too busy adding character backgrounds for characters I just want to see horribly murdered by a bear. We see an ambulance worker and the driver horribly murdered. Why don't we see the gangsters murdered? Why does David survive this thing? He shouldn't survive. He shouldn't be noble. He's a gangster. I could see a scene where he survives all the way to the end and then tries to take out the bear and doesn't succeed and the bear kills him. That would be cool. But didn't happen. Same thing with Ray Liotta. So it was a weird way to end the movie. The tone is all wrong. Again, that ranger lying on the road, and they just kind of walk past her. Ew, don't look at that. What the hell, man? What the hell, Elizabeth? That's it? Oh, the movie's over. We don't have time for that. You could have had them just not walk past that, right? You could have just had them walking home, and I don't know, they walk down a different road. Not the road where the ambulance crashed, but a different road. Or maybe the ambulance is so far down the road they don't even get to it in the time it takes you to end the movie. Or you could dissolve to a later scene where they're back home and it's days later and the cops are taking their statements, and you could have wrapped it that way. Instead, they walk past the dead ranger. It doesn't make any sense, in my view. I'm pretty sure she was still underneath there. I'm almost 90% sure. It's not clear. The whole ending of the movie's kind of muddled for me. They spend way too much time on David and Eddie. Just way too much. For 2 guys who should have been, again, frustrated gangsters who should have just been annoyed they even had to go into the woods for this. And you're talking a multi-million-dollar operation. None of them dressed like they had that kind of money. David's freaking out over one jersey he loves. He got stabbed. That's about the only surprise in the movie, when David gets stabbed, and I'm like, how does he get stabbed? He's a big guy. He took care of these 3 gangsters. These guys are crazy enough to stab him? So, the sensibility of this movie is really off to me. If I had done this, again, I would have made it Ray Liotta, throw in a couple other Goombas, right? Get 2 real hardcore mafia guys. They're in it too. Hey, Sid, we don't do woods. Yeah, well, you're going to do woods because we got to get this coke back. And I can't trust David and Eddie out there by themselves. You got to comb the woods. Get this coke back. It should have been a free-for-all at the end. And the cop dying on top of the gazebo, what the hell did he add? Nothing, really. I thought he was going to be a big part of the movie. Yeah, there's a showdown with him. and then he's killed by Ray Liotta. And it's kind of an agonizing death too. It's like he's up on the gazebo. There's no one that's gonna help him. He's bleeding out. It's like, dude, what does that do? That's the wrong tone for this movie. Again, if you had made that guy evil, if you had made that cop, he was on the take too, or better yet, he was going to steal the coke. He was on the take, and he was going to double cross Sid. So he just kills him. That's what should have happened to him. It should have been a scene like, what are you doing, man? I'm taking this coke for me. Like when the gangsters, when David and Eddie come and confront this cop stealing the coke, and they pull guns on each other, then it should have been like, where have you been, man? Right? And it would have been this scene like, oh, well, I was going to help Sid. I heard about the coke. And then the other girl comes up and says, oh, you're on the take too? Of course I'm on the take. Why you got her? Oh, we got her watching you. See, you were going to take the coke. No, I wasn't. And then they could argue and kill each other, and then you wouldn't care. Then you'd be like, oh, he's bad too. So I can't recommend this movie. I just can't. It's not. It's a rental at best. If you're curious, you want to see it. It's going to be a hoot for about 40 minutes to an hour, and then it just kind of dies off. It just runs out of gas, unfortunately. It needed bigger and bigger bits at the end of the movie. Not a breakdown about Cubs and Henry's daddy issues and, Eddie giving up again. Eddie gives up again at the end, too. Like, oh, come on, Sid, this is over. Like, what? Why? How did this guy get to be a gangster? I don't understand. It's not the way gangsters act. Anyhow, that's it for me, Tony D and Little Joan. I'm blowing up on the phone. I'm going to let you go. Check me out at Nerdfest on Sunday from 10 to 4 in Swedesboro, New Jersey, and we'll see you